All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to the I77 South Express Lanes Industry Forum. Appreciate you all being here today, especially the Tuesday after a long Labor Day weekend. First, I would like to introduce Secretary Joey Hopkins, who's going to give some welcome remarks.
Yeah. Thank you, Carly. Good afternoon, everyone. It is good to see everybody after a long holiday weekend and also the first full week of college football season. I'm sure some of us are more happy than others today, whether your team won or lost.
Thanks for that.
Okay, just thought I'd remind you, David, after what happened last night. Really appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate the partnerships. You know, I look around the room and I see a lot of friends in our industry, a lot of folks that are either former DOT or have worked for us at NCDOT on many projects over many years. So really appreciate your interest in this project, and we hope to give you some information this afternoon that will help just keep that interest going and hopefully even help it grow. As y'all know, the 77 South Express Lanes project is located on a congested 11-mile corridor of I-77. It runs from uptown Charlotte down to the South Carolina line. And for us, it's considered our most complex and expensive project that we've had to date. In North Carolina, as you also know, our capital program, while it's grown a little bit, our finances have grown a little bit, our capital program has not grown with it. And that's really because our revenues have not been able to keep up with inflation, all while we continue to see construction costs grow and grow. With that, we've got more needs in funding, and we do have to rely on tools like tolling and P3s to help deliver our major infrastructure projects. Our first P3 project was I-77 North, and that extends 26 miles from uptown Charlotte up to Morrisville, and we've learned a great deal from that. Most importantly, we've learned that we need to be more transparent and we need to have a better coordinated effort with our local communities. And because of that, because of what we've learned, we have worked very closely with the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization, or CARTPO, over the last few years on this project as we've been in the early stages of development. And most recently, we've partnered with the I-77 South Express Lanes Working Group that was put together by CARTPO. The working group identified priorities of the region for delivering this project, and it's helped inform key indicative terms for the contract. I would like to recognize our partners if we have any in the room from CARTPO. Is anybody from CARTPO here in the room? Looking around, I don't see anybody.
Tony's here.
Okay, yeah, Tony, our board chair, standing in the back of the room. He's a member of CARTPO. Thanks for coming, Tony. Thank you for being here today. As I wrap up, I do want to remind everybody about our annual Transportation Summit. It does start tomorrow in this building. This year we have more than 12 technical sessions on topics facing the transportation industry. We have experts from a local and national level speaking on transportation emergency response, safety, funding, and innovation. Also encourage all of you to stop by our DOT Business Development Zone. That's downstairs in the exhibit hall. We've got booths and exhibits where you can interact with other transportation contractors, engineering firms, and our own DOT staff. Our Office of Civil Rights has a table in the back of the room here today if anybody's got questions or wants more information. And we'll also have several booths at the summit to inform small businesses about working with prime contractors and larger firms, and also about becoming certified. And this year's Business Development Zone will host breakout sessions for prime contractors and subs to connect and start developing relationships that are so important for our industry. We hope you can join us tomorrow and Thursday at the summit. Thank you for your interest in helping us deliver this project. And I will now turn it over to our COO, Chris Peoples.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's pretty exciting to see almost full room. I don't know that I was anticipating that when I first got up here. see a lot of familiar faces like the secretary said, and excited to see y'all. And then there's some folks that I can't wait to meet that are in the room too. So happy y'all are here. First thing, I'd like to echo some of the secretary's remarks, but one of the biggest one is to thank y'all for being here today. I'd also like to give a special welcome to our friends from neighboring state DOTs that are going down a similar process and exploring P3s, express lanes, managed lanes. They either have projects coming up or they've got some programs coming up. So we're happy to have you here. Thank you so much for supporting us and being good partners. We work closely with these teams, and the biggest thing is we're trying to share best practices with them. We're trying to share lessons learned. And one of the biggest things that we do is try to coordinate the schedules for all this work that's coming up. We think that's a really important thing that we're working on jointly. As Secretary Hopkins mentioned, with limited funding, we must be creative in how we deliver critical projects. There's been a major shift in the last few years with projects that we used to estimate to be in the millions of dollars now being in the hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. Despite efforts at the federal level and our own General Assembly, the funding just hasn't kept pace. We've also faced increasingly severe storms in the southeast, but here in particular in North Carolina very recently. And we expect the Hurricane Helene recovery efforts to cost us around $5 billion. That's going to compete with some of the same resources that our normal programs typically utilize. As such, a lot of North Carolina communities across the state are now asking us to look at tolling and public-private partnerships. They want us to check and see if those tools can help them deliver their priority projects on schedule or even a little bit faster than what's anticipated. Today you'll be hearing from Carly Swanson, Brett Knight, and David Roy. These three have been on the front lines of our process so far, partnering with CRTPO to ensure local priorities are incorporated and that this project is the best it can be for the region, for Charlotte's region. They'll walk you through an overview of the project, our work to date, our procurement schedule, and more. In closing, I hope that the information that is shared today about the project and the process is helpful to each of you. I'd like to thank you again for being here today and for your commitment to collaboration. We want to deliver the best project for the state of North Carolina. When our teams work together, our projects are better coordinated and our decisions are better informed, which leads to better outcomes for everyone. I hope to see you here at the NC Transportation Summit for the next few days. And we have a fantastic lineup of sessions and speakers from all across the country. Again, thank you for your participation and your interest in transportation solutions in North Carolina. So now I'm going to pass it over to Carly, who will kick off the project overview presentation. Carly.
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me? I'm using a different mic. Awesome. First, I want to introduce myself. I'm Carly Swanson, Director of Innovative Delivery at NCDOT within the Turnpike Authority. I'm going to first start off by introducing our project team. With me here at the table, I've got Brett Knight. He's the Western Deputy Chief Engineer for NCDOT, and then David Roy, the Director of Innovative Finance for the Turnpike Authority. Also wanted to recognize Felix Obregon. He is our Division 10 engineer. We make up the core project team, but with this, we also have our advisors. If you look up on the screen here, you'll see several different advisors that are supporting us for the I77 South Express Lanes project. First, starting out with Ashurst, our legal advisor. H&TB, serving as our program manager, commercial advisor. KPMG, our financial advisor. RS&H, design and environmental advisor. And then Stantec, our traffic and revenue advisor. Next, I briefly want to walk through the P3 and tolling legislative authority here in North Carolina. This is just a brief overview. You see here that there are a couple of links to the legislative authority as well. Once this industry forum is over, we will be posting this presentation on our procurement website, so you can find more information there. But starting out, NCDOT is authorized to enter into P3 agreements with private entities to design, build, finance, operate, and maintain transportation infrastructure in North Carolina. We are currently allowed 6 P3 projects in the state. That has increased this legislative session. It went from 3 to 6. The 3 project slots that are currently filled, as mentioned earlier, the I77 North Express Lanes project, which was our state's first P3 in Express Lanes project. Additionally, the local planning organization along the Outer Banks, the Albemarle Rural Planning Organization, did pass a resolution about a year ago wanting to move forward with the P3 delivery process for the Mid-Currituck Bridge project. And then, of course, the project that we are covering here today, the I77 South Express Lanes. Additionally, NCDOT does have the authority to assign its power to charge and collect tolls with a private entity. And the department may act as a conduit issuer for private activity bonds as long as the bonds do not constitute a debt obligation of the state. And then lastly, per state law, all toll projects in North Carolina must be approved by the local planning organization. Next, I just want to briefly walk through the Charlotte region. As we look at this area where the project is located, the Charlotte region does encompass 14 different counties in both North and South Carolina. Do want to recognize our partners that are here with us today from the South Carolina DOT. Our department is fortunate to have really great relationships with our partnering states, especially for projects like this that we know are going to impact both states and our travelers going in and out of North and South Carolina. The region does encompass a population of nearly 3 million people, which the region's also seen a 20% population growth since 2010. We are anticipating a population growth of about 12% by 2030, bringing the population to 4.3 million by 2050. We know this region has grown exponentially over the last decade and will continue to grow, so the need for a project like this is critical. Gross regional product, $220 billion, 1.6 million total jobs. The unemployment rate is now down to 3.9%, and the labor force growth since 2010 is 16%. Additionally, it's important to know that the Charlotte Douglas International Airport is one of the most top 10 connected airports in the world. So that's just a snapshot of the Charlotte region. Next, we will look specifically at the I-77 corridor. As noted earlier, this region continues to grow, and so do the vehicle miles traveled on this stretch of corridor. I-77 is the major north-south interstate in the Charlotte region and serves as the main gateway to uptown Charlotte. Now, if you look at the map here, you'll see there are a number of logos. You'll see that we have Bank of America, Atrium Health, and Wells Fargo. Those are the top 3 employers in this section of corridor. Additionally, multimodal is important to mention here. We do have our inland port. You'll see the North Carolina Ports logo up towards 45. As mentioned earlier, we have the Charlotte Douglas International Airport, as well as Norfolk Southern. I-77 is at approaching capacity and anticipated to operate over capacity through the design year of 2050. Also important to note that crash rates for this section of I-77 South are 2.5 times higher than the statewide average for urban interstates in North Carolina. Soon I will walk through some of the project goals. The department's top priority is traveler safety. So with this project and providing that reliable travel time, we anticipate it will also improve safety as well. And as we look at the I-77 South Express Lanes project, it's important to note how we got to where we are today. Back in 2007, a group of transportation planners, both from North Carolina DOT, South Carolina DOT, the City of Charlotte, as well as the Regional Planning Organization, or the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization, conducted a study known as the Fast Lane Study. So this group of transportation planners back in 2007 anticipated the growth that we are seeing today and identified major corridors that could be better improved with the use of managed lanes to provide that reliable travel time for drivers, especially in very congested conditions. So the slide here shows the map of those corridors that were identified in the fast lane study. And the different projects included I-77, I-485, and the US 74 corridors. So just to briefly walk through the map here, we will start with the dark blue lines. Those are the projects that are either open to traffic or under construction. So you'll see up north, as mentioned earlier, the I-77 North Express Lanes project that's been open to traffic since 2019, stretches from uptown Charlotte 26 miles up to Morrisville. Additionally, we have the I-485 express lanes down the dark blue line at the bottom. That project is currently under construction, anticipated to open late this year. Next, I'll walk through the light blue project, which is the I-77 South Express Lanes project that we are talking about today. Stretches 11 miles from uptown down to the South Carolina line. And then you'll see the gray dotted lines on the map here. That includes both east and west 45 express lanes, as well as the US 74 express lanes, which extends from 485 to uptown Charlotte. Then in 2010, CRTPO did adopt a resolution supporting the fast lane study. As mentioned earlier, in North Carolina, all toll projects must receive approval from the local planning organization. So this fast lane study and the resolution kicked off that process for this project. All right, next I'll give a brief project overview, and then Brett will cover additional details about the proposed improvements. So this slide, we are looking specifically at the project. You'll see on the map here extends 11 miles from I-277 down to the South Carolina state line. I did also want to recognize all of you who had pre-registered here today and you provided feedback on the project and some of the things that you want to hear. We are working to cover all those details in the presentation today. So again, thank you for submitting your topics that you wanted covered. So hopefully we'll get through most of that information. But just briefly, the project in our state prioritization is known as I-57-18. The corridor was last widened in the 1990s from 4 to 6 lanes. Includes the addition of express lanes for the approximate 11 miles of the corridor. And then additionally, and I will go into more detail about the comparative analysis here in a couple slides, but in 2024, we did conduct an analysis, and at the time, it had the total project cost for the year of expenditure at $3.2 billion. It's known as one of the state's most complex and expensive transportation projects in North Carolina. Additionally, it's important to note too that we are working in parallel with our environmental process with the environmental assessment ongoing. We are anticipating the finding of no significant impact or FONSI in late 2026, early 2027. So these are some of the project goals identified for the project. As the Secretary mentioned earlier, we are working very closely with our local stakeholders and the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization, and we have identified several goals for the project that I'll walk through here. First and foremost, increased driver safety. As mentioned earlier, this stretch of corridor has high crash rates and has not been widened since the 90s. So with this project, we anticipate it will increase driver safety. Additionally, through the use of a P3 delivery model, we are able to accelerate project delivery, optimize state, regional, and local public funding contribution, improve travel time reliability, preparing the corridor for future growth. As mentioned earlier, the Charlotte region continues to grow, so being able to provide that reliable travel time, optimizing toll cost and benefits, engaging the community, and this is an important one. There are a lot of lessons learned from our first P3, and if you've been following this project the last couple of years, you've seen we've worked very closely with stakeholders. That process is not going to stop here. Throughout the life of the project, from the time it's under construction to when it opens to traffic, we're going to continue to have very close stakeholder relations and stakeholder engagement on this project. Additionally, we will work to minimize construction impacts on residents and local business, enhance the economic competitiveness of the region. So looking high level at the project goals, these are just a few of them. Next, I will walk through the key milestones for the project to show how we got here today. And I will go ahead and warn you, we had to break the timeline up into 2 slides because there's a lot of history on this project. So starting in 2007, as mentioned earlier, it kicked off the Fast Lane study, the partnership between NCDOT, South Carolina DOT, and the city of Charlotte. And through there, CRTPO did adopt the resolution supporting the Fast Lane study and identified I-77 for further study for managed lanes. Additionally, the project was submitted to NCDOT as part of prioritization 3.0 in 2014 and has since been included in subsequent rounds of prioritization. And it's important to note, too, since the project was originally submitted to prioritization in 2014, the cost has tripled since then, since 2014, in 11 years. And then I'll go ahead and jump forward to 2022. That is when CRTPO adopted the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and included the project in the funded list. And as we move forward to 2023, as mentioned earlier, over the last couple of years, we have worked very closely with the local planning organization, CRTPO, on this project. So back in early 2023, CRTPO did request the department to conduct a comparative analysis to compare a traditional or public toll delivery of the project versus a public-private partnership or P3 toll delivery. In 2024, the project did score as one of the top projects at the statewide tier during prioritization 7.0 and was funded with $600 million. And then late last year, NCDOT did present the findings of the comparative analysis to the CRTPO board, which showed that the traditional toll delivery was not financially feasible, while a P3 toll delivery was financially feasible. And from there, CRTPO did approve a resolution moving forward with the P3 toll delivery, and then formed a working group to work with the NCDOT staff to develop priority key indicative terms for the project. And then as we move forward to this year in 2025, the project was included in the draft 2026-2035 STIP. And throughout the working group process, NCDOT did conduct market feedback meetings. We held 22 meetings, meeting with different developers to get feedback on our key terms that were developed. And then back in June, the CRTPO working group finalized their priority key terms. And as you all are aware, the department did release the RFQ just a couple weeks ago on August 15th. So as mentioned on the last slide, in coordination with CRTPO, we did create a working group to partner with the department to develop project objectives and priorities to inform the indicative terms. And this timeline here just shows the process that we went through with the working group. So starting in November 2024, you'll see the stars here. Those represent the 4 different working group meetings we had. So first, we identified priorities from the region for the project, and from there, we defined objectives and key terms with the working group. We were able to then draft key terms and break those up into 2 different groups, both low financial impact priorities and high financial impact priorities and terms. As mentioned earlier, we did host 22 different industry feedback terms for industry meetings for these terms, just to make sure we received feedback from the market to make sure the terms were viable for the project. And then we were able to finalize those key terms with the working group in June this year. And then, as mentioned earlier, we advertised the RFQ on August 15th. And then just to briefly walk through the key term development process, it was iterative. It was important for us to not only get feedback from the CRTPO working group, but also work with our industry partners. So you'll see the flow chart here. Ultimately, this process was developed to ensure an effective solution and ultimately a viable project. So the priorities were defined with the working group at the regional level. From there, we identified the key impacted terms and developed draft terms. And then after that, we did host those market feedback meetings, 22 of them. And from there, we were able to evaluate both customer and operational implications, but also the financial implications. So ultimately, we were able to complete those terms just a couple months ago. You'll also find the key terms both on our procurement website, also as an attachment to the RFQ. And so here is just a list of the CRTPO priority key terms. Did want to point out a couple of these. You'll see number 4, HOV 3+, as well as number 9, transit usage of the express lanes for free. These are both utilized on the I-77 North express lanes, and in working with the local planning organization, they were also identified as priorities for I-77 South. So for HOV3, for those travelers that do have an NC Quick Pass account and have 3 people in the vehicle, if they set HOV status before they enter the lanes, they are able to travel for free. So that was a priority for I-77 South. Additionally, the department has a great partnership with CATS, and so transit is able to use the express lanes in the south for free, and that was a priority for CRTPO as well. Some differences that I did want to point out that will be incorporated for I-77 South. So additional performance reporting, more transparent toll rates, as well as the large commercial vehicle usage of the express lanes. Did also want to point out DBE outreach. As mentioned earlier, our partners with the department's OCR team are back at the back table. And so if you have any questions related to DBE, be sure to check out the table in the back. And next, I'll pass it over to Brett.
Thank you, Carly. Do a little sound check. Everybody hears me okay? Okay. So again, I'm Brett Knipe. I'm the Western Deputy Chief Engineer with North Carolina DOT. I was fortunate enough to be able to work on this project for a number of years in my former role as a Division 10 engineer. And I just really can't say enough about the team of folks that got us to where we are today. So I'm really proud of that. I mean, some of those folks were here with us. I mean, certainly the RS&H team on the NEPA development. Patrick Norman, our former chief engineer, former chief engineer of the North Carolina Turnpike Authority, also joined that project team for a while. I mean, it just took a lot of people to get us to where we are. So, you know, and all of that was done with this level of partnership, and you'll keep hearing that as a reoccurring theme, right? Because that's what got us to here with our partners at the MPO and at the City of Charlotte and everyone it took to get this project to this point. But I'll quickly go through a description of the project, and we'll get in a little bit more detail as we move along. As it's been stated, that this was a 11-mile segment of I-77 South that extends from the South Carolina state line up to uptown Charlotte, the 277 area. That would be the northern interchange at Brookshire Freeway. So there's 11 interchanges in this corridor. Most, if not all, of those interchanges would have to be rebuilt to complete the typical section, which we'll go into on a future, on a different slide as well. So there's 4 grade separations included. There's 4 railroad crossings that cross the I-77. There's also anticipated to be a future CATS light rail Silver Line bridge that will also have to cross over the project. And all of our plans to date have included a level of coordination with CATS, and so that will definitely have to continue as well. There's other local interests that we can get into as we cover some of these slides, you know, other grade separation potential such as Archdale Drive that the City of Charlotte would certainly say is a priority that we've worked to try to incorporate opportunities to include that. And of course, you know, there's going to be direct connects along the way. Our concept plans show direct connects to the express lanes from I-45, I-277, interchanges of John Belka's Brookshire as well as Woodlawn. And then, of course, ingress-egress points at the right locations up and down the corridor. And we could talk about the spacing of those as we go through the presentation. So I've got on the screen a typical section, and an ag-grade typical section, and it is just that, a typical section, right? I mean, then this corridor is very constrained. It's built out all up along the corridor. There's a lot of existing traffic. As Carly mentioned, it is at or above capacity at many times of the day, and so, you know, the concept here is 3 general purpose lanes, 2 express lanes in each direction. There will be interchange points where some auxiliary lanes are going to be required. I'll give you another typical section of an elevated option next, but Generally speaking, our baseline concept involves 12-foot lanes all the way across, a 4-foot buffer space separating the express lanes and general purpose lanes with the flexible delineators. And those delineators, that's kind of been adopted as a standard in North Carolina. They exist on I-77 North project. We're installing them under the 485 project that's under construction as well right now. And of course, we're going to get folks into and out of these lanes and into and out of the express lanes. And so there's going to have to be a merge lane. Some folks want to call it a weave lane, but that's going to have to be designed with some tight constraints. We've figured that out as we've developed our plans for the project, that you need to put them at the right spot from a traffic and revenue standpoint, but certainly they've got to fit, and you've got to have the appropriate distances. You also have the appropriate distances between access points of the interchanges up and downstream to allow for safe movement into and out of the express lanes. And so here's a typical elevated section, and as you might imagine, there's going to be an opportunity to avoid potential right-of-way impacts by raising the express lanes up instead of going out. And we've explored those in our concepts. And we think that the uptown area is probably the most likely location you're going to find an opportunity to elevate if that's the decision at all. But one thing I want to mention is that we're inviting and we want to emphasize the importance of innovation in the project, and we're inviting ATCs. We'd love to see those alternative concepts coming from folks like yourselves that have worked on projects like this potentially all over the globe. So definitely looking for fresh ideas. We know we've about beat ours to death, but we're certainly ready to see the project move forward with some innovation. We think that there could be an opportunity to come out of the center running express lanes potentially. You might be able to shift to one side or the other. So what's on the screen is an offset of just a elevated interchange, or elevated express lane. But it could also become a stacked version where it's directly over top of the existing general purpose lanes in segments, or it could move across, right? So those designs are going to be something we'll have to figure out together as we move forward. I do think it's important to note when we talk about this elevated option about the level, going back to that coordination and partnership with the city of Charlotte. Obviously, this is going to impact the view shed in the city of Charlotte. It's going to change the landscape in the city of Charlotte. And so anything that we do out there, we want to make sure that we continue that level of coordination with our partners at the city. So we can talk a little bit about the project responsibilities, like, what is NCDOT going to retain responsibility for? What are we going to share with our teaming partner, and what would be on the developer? And so, again, just keeping on that theme of partnership, we recognize that this, it's all going to be a balance of risk and responsibility, and we want to do what's necessary to move the project forward. So NCDOT is going to obviously be the contracting entity. We're going to be the project sponsor and manager. The tolling authority will be responsible for the commercial back office system, customer service operations, and collection and processing and enforcement. We're also going to utilize a owner's verification model for construction quality, right? And that's going to be a partnership within itself. We could talk more about when it comes time for construction, what this project is going to look like. That's where the rubber's really going to meet the road. But the developer is going to be responsible for the final design of the project, right? We've got concepts out there. We'll be sharing those with you very soon. We'll be moving forward with our NEPA process, by the way, and having those meetings in the fall, public meetings where our concepts will come to light for the public. You guys obviously will be responsible for construction of the project, financing, and the roadway operation and maintenance of the general purpose lanes and the express lanes. We expect the general purpose lanes could come with a supplement from NCDOT, and that in keeping with similarity to the 77 North contract, we want to be able to renew that operation and maintenance agreement for the general purpose lanes every 5 years. I think I want to mention here, though, that among all other things, safety is NCDOT's top priority. And so we're both going to be responsible for that, right? We're going to be responsible for that during design, but especially construction. A project of this size and scope, it's going to be very intense, as everyone, I'm sure, is imagining, but that also brings the inherent risks that come with our industry, and so that will be a focus of the department throughout the life of the contract. So I mentioned that risk allocation would be a balance, right? There's been all this energy and effort that's put into this project that we've described to date, and so we want to make this project a success for the region, for the citizens of North Carolina, and for the department. So as we talk about risk allocation, we're going at this with a simple approach. We want to make it a success, which means it's got to work for the developer and it's got to work for the DOT. And so when it comes to permitting and NEPA, like a NEPA reevaluation that would come with any ATCs, we could manage a burden of risk for the base concept, but then a reevaluation that expands maybe farther beyond our base concept footprint certainly could have more risk put on the developer. Submittals, we all know that there's going to be an exchange back and forth as these plans are developed. NCDOT is committing right now to make that as smooth and as efficient of a process as possible, right? So we're going to have to share that risk time together, but ultimately it's going to be up to us to get responses back to you in a timely manner. I had to take a sip of water before that next one because right-of-way acquisition is one of my favorite topics because it certainly could be one of the riskier topics, but because of that, we're planning to retain that risk, right? For our base concepts, the department's planning to retain the risk in terms of time and effort going into that. Obviously, if there's a big change that comes out of a concept that comes from the developer, that could change that conversation, but right now, we're thinking of some innovative ways to get ahead of the right-of-way and the utility coordination for that matter, and stay in front of that to have the project, have the right-of-way available when you're ready to construct. The rail coordination, that's always a tough one. Anybody that's doing business, construction business on highways knows that rail companies can lead to additional risk. And we're going to have a balanced approach with that, recognizing that they can be a partner, and we're already starting very early coordination with them. Construction material cost indexation, that's pretty standard for NCDOT. We're going to index our AC and our fuel, our steel, so that's going to follow suit with our typical processes. Now, in geotech, we are getting geotechnical information now as we speak. We've completed a lot of that work, and so we're going to have that available for you guys very soon. And then as we move through this coordination effort, if once we have shortlisted teams, I think we could potentially go out and get additional geotechnical information on your behalf, because we know that's very, very important, right? We want to know what's under us. We want to predict everything we can, but ultimately we can't. So we'll certainly have a risk share where the developer could share the cost of an unknown geotechnical impact up to a certain threshold, and then NCDOT could share the cost impact beyond that, not past our base design. Now, hazmat, that's always a risk anytime you're working in an old highway right-of-way. So we recognize that you guys may have an opportunity to pursue impact and costs associated with what you experience on the hazmat front, but also third-party risk are not always quantifiable. And so we think that we could potentially retain that risk in the operation and maintenance phase, especially beyond a certain threshold. I think we covered all that. So again, I think I said where the rubber meets the road once already, because that's what I was thinking of when I was thinking about construction. I did make it through the I-77 North construction, and that was a tough project for us. And so I think about this I-77 South project as being potentially even harder to build, right? I mean, that project, the North project wasn't so tough. It was just a new way of going about it, being the state's first P3. But on the 77 South corridor, as we've already discussed, this is a very constrained working environment. So we recognize that it's going to be a challenge to see it through. But I'll go back and highlight that partnership theme that, obviously developer's going to be responsible for, constructing and then maintaining all the lanes while you're in construction. But NCDOT wants to be right there with you, helping you solve challenges and helping overcome them, okay? So with the exception of snow and ice, I meant to say that a moment ago, then the developer would be responsible for all maintenance activities. That's also very standard in North Carolina. It's our setup on 77 North and also our typical projects, right? We can maintain the snow and ice, and certainly that's going to require partnership from the developer team, right? Because it could be a disruption, and so it can go both ways. The O&M responsibility, the 5-year period, I'll touch on that a little bit more. So that, again, it's in line with the 77 North contract, and we would expect the developer to maintain essentially fence to fence, all the lanes, all components, but with a supplement from NCDOT, because that would otherwise be a maintenance cost, right? In addition, we're talking about at least a 50-year term contract, so there's going to be needs for capital improvements, resurfacing of the general purpose lanes, and we would be responsible for a set number of those renewal cycles as well. But with that, I'm going to pass it to David, Director of Innovative Finance for North Carolina Turnpike Authority, to talk to you. I missed that. Carly's once again keeping me on point. So the indicative term sheet is coming out, tell me when. Next Friday, right?
This Friday.
It's Friday. So thank you for that reminder. So that's going to go into more detail about all these topics that we've talked about. We're also going to be able to share some additional project information and files, KMZ files with you at the time. Thanks.
All right. Good afternoon. Again, my name is David Roy. I'm the Director of Innovative Finance for the North Carolina Turnpike Authority within NCDOT. So for the next few slides, I'll be walking through at least at a high level the tolling approach and tolling policies for the project, and then we'll turn briefly to financing considerations, the RFQ evaluation criteria, and obviously we'll close out with the procurement schedule. So it is expected that tolling services will be provided by the North Carolina Turnpike Authority on behalf of the department. For those not familiar with the Turnpike Authority, we essentially operate as the state's tolling arm and as a business unit of NCDOT. Through the NC Quick Pass program, the Turnpike Authority provides commercial back office and customer service operations for all tolled facilities across the state. This includes the Triangle Expressway system here in Raleigh, the Monroe Expressway out in the Charlotte region, as well as the I-77 North Express lanes, and soon the I-485 South Express lanes in South Charlotte as well. Consistent with how the I-77 North Express lanes are operated, it is expected that the Turnpike Authority will also provide the commercial back office system and customer service and billing operations for the I-77 South Express lanes. The department, through the Turnpike Authority, will be responsible for establishing and maintaining or managing business rules related to the NC Quick Pass program, including the bill-by-mail operations. The department will be responsible for toll collections and collections risk for all valid transactions that are submitted to NCTA by the developer of the I-77 South Express Lanes project. Of course, payment to the developer will be made by the department for those valid transactions. And just generally, all customer service interface, dispute resolution, et cetera, will be handled by the Turnpike Authority. The developer, through their roadside toll collection system and operational back office, will be responsible for capturing transactions in the lanes and transmitting completed transactions to the Turnpike Authority for processing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in the next slide. All right, so a little more about the tolling approach and contemplated responsibilities for both the developer and NCTA. The selected developer will be responsible for setting toll rates within the parameters that are defined in the contract. It is, of course, expected that the lanes will be dynamically priced and that the developer will monitor traffic in both the express lanes and the general purpose lanes to set rates at a level that will both encourage utilization of the lanes while maintaining average speed in the express lanes of at least the federally mandated 45 miles per hour. The developer will also be responsible for image review and processing of all transactions occurring in the lanes, so as a completed transaction is provided to NCTA for processing. The Turnpike Authority and our vendor partners will be responsible for customer account management and support all invoicing and collections activities related to transactions in the 77 South Express lanes, financial reconciliation and reporting, as well as system integration, both with other toll facilities across the state, as well as our interoperable partners across the country. Turning to tolling practice, we have identified some of the key policies that I think will be of most interest. It's important, I think, first and foremost to the department and to the Turnpike Authority that there is a seamless customer experience for those utilizing both the I-77 South Express lanes and the I-77 North Express lanes currently in operation. As such, consistent with the I-77 North Express lanes, certain vehicles will be exempt from paying a toll. Of course, those include on-duty emergency response vehicles, vehicles, as Carly mentioned, that have declared their HOV 3+ status, transit vehicles, and motorcycles consistent with legislation. In addition to the tolling exemptions, several other tolling policies of interest have been highlighted here. I think, as Carly also mentioned, it is contemplated that the I-77 South Express lanes will allow large commercial vehicles up to FHWA Class 10. The developer will be allowed to charge a higher toll rate for larger class vehicles. And the last two policies we highlight here, as Carly also mentioned, were identified as part of the key priorities for the region by CRTPO through that working group process. First, the selected developer will be required to implement and administer a discount program to provide a number of free or discounted trips to eligible low-income users in the lanes. It's also contemplated that the toll rate setting methodology will include two main levels of soft toll rate caps to align toll rates with actual utilization of the express lanes, while still providing the developer flexibility to effectively manage operations of the lanes. And of course, additional details for all of these policies will be included in the indicative term sheet that is set to be released later this week. But we did want to highlight them here again because of their importance, both to CRTPO and the region. All right. Taking a quick look at some of the key financing considerations, and I think these are pretty standard, so we won't spend a ton of time on them. but it is expected that the developer will be responsible for structuring and securing non-recourse financing to support construction of the project. Of course, this could include both developer equity and debt. The department, on behalf of the successful bidder, does plan to pursue both a TIFIA loan as well as a potential PABS allocation, and of course that will be made available to the successful bidder to be included in the proposed financing package. And finally, of course, as part of any compliant proposal, respondents must provide financing commitments and will be responsible for closing on those commitments at financial close. Taking a quick look at the RFQ evaluation criteria. Hopefully, as many of you have already seen, this slide shows the criteria that will be used to evaluate any SOQs that are received. There will be a total of 1,000 points available. Technical qualifications will be scored with a maximum of 600 points, while financial qualifications will be scored with a maximum of 400 points. There is no additional point breakdown for the criteria listed under either the technical or the financial evaluation criteria. Technical qualifications that will be considered include the technical and project delivery experience of the team, as well as the experience of the key technical personnel identified in the SOQ, management's outlined approach and the proposed team structure, P3 project stakeholder experience and engagement, and finally, the project delivery narrative that is provided. Financial qualifications that will be considered include the financing experience of equity members for projects of this type, equity members' investment track record, the depth of experience of the respondent's proposed finance manager, and finally, the project financing narrative that is included in the response. And again, while certain criteria are identified in the RFQ as either being of greater or equal to of importance of certain other evaluation criteria, there is no suballocation of points beyond what we have provided here, so please review the evaluation criteria section carefully. Just a couple of other items that we wanted to briefly highlight. While the department reserves the right certainly to shortlist any number of teams, we do anticipate shortlisting 3 to 4. Anticipate a stipend of up to $12.5 million will be made available to each unsuccessful shortlisted bidder. And then finally, the department is targeting a minimum payment and performance security of around 30% of the design and construction contract value. And just to close out the formal part of the presentation, we have included a link to the procurement website, but it should also be easy to access with a simple Google search of I-77 South procurement. This site is where you can find any and everything procurement related, including additional reference documents, responses to questions that we receive and respond to as we move through the process, along with any addendums, of course. And ultimately, this is where the shortlist announcement will be made. So please, if you're interested, check this site regularly to stay up to date. Turning to schedule, again, as hopefully many of you are already aware and has been mentioned here today, the RFQ was posted on August 15th. There will be several opportunities throughout September and October to submit questions, so please check the RFQ for those specific dates. SOQs will be due on December 19th, and we anticipate shortlisting in February, and we are targeting release of a draft RFP in March of next year, with the final RFP targeted for Q1 of 2027. And then finally, the preferred bidder and commercial close are targeted for the following quarter, Q2 of 27. So I think that wraps up the formal part of the presentation. Again, just want to echo what others have said. We are really grateful for everybody being here today, particularly coming off a long holiday weekend. You know, we are excited about moving this project forward. It's such a critical project for both the region and the state. So again, thank you for being here and for your interest. With that, I think I will turn it over to Patrick Norman, who is Chief Engineer for the department, a recovering turnpiker, about 6 months recovering. for some closing remarks.
It's a long road of recovery. No. Thank you again, Patrick Norman, Chief Engineer for NCDOT. I'm pretty fresh in this role, about 3 months in. Was former Chief Engineer at Turnpike Authority. So before I get into my closing remarks, just a couple housekeeping things. If you haven't signed in at the table outside the door, if you would please sign in. Just helps us get a good head count and then know who's represented. And just reiterate that the slides that have been presented today, they will be posted on the procurement website for everybody to access. So obviously, hearing all these remarks and seeing all the work that's going into this, obviously we've had quite a journey to get to where we are today. But I think we could probably all say the journey is getting ready to begin, right? So we're really looking forward to this project. We are committed to being strong partners with you. We will be open and transparent and communicate clearly throughout this process. We value the future discussions that we're all going to have, and we recognize that your commitment to this project is valuable to us because you guys are going to help us shape the transportation solutions that are going to serve the community in and around Charlotte. So we really appreciate you. So as we close out, I want to thank you again for being here and engaging with us on this project. I want to thank our local and state partners that are in the room. I want to thank both our Turnpike and our DOT board members in the room, NCDOT staff and Turnpike Authority staff, everyone who's worked on this project to get us where we are today. Another quick reminder, the Office of Civil Rights does have a table in the back. If you're interested in learning about workforce development or any kind of small business contracting opportunities, I would recommend you stop by and see them. As the Secretary mentioned earlier, our Transportation Summit is on for the next 2 days here in the Convention Center, tomorrow and Thursday. So if you haven't already registered, we would encourage you to do so. It is not too late to attend. We will have a business development zone on the floor of the, lost my train of thought here.
Exhibit hall.
The exhibit hall. Thank you. I appreciate that. I can't remember that word for some reason. But the exhibit hall, we have a lot of interesting things going on there, but we'll have a workforce development kind of session going on there too. So we look forward to having you there. That's all I have for today. So once again, thank you for your interest in this project. We're not going to have any formal Q&A, obviously. We're an open procurement, but there are networking opportunities, so I encourage you to hang around, network with your peers, network with the DOT and Turnpike staff, and get to know each other, and we look forward to working with you as we move forward. Thank you all for coming.
So she wants a picture.